Opposed, yeah. I go out with my guy's license. I said, I hung down because I hung up. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. You will.
Yes. 6:30, call the meeting to order. Certified compliance with the open records law?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gillis.
Here.
Councilmember Hartog.
Here.
Councilmember Hooker.
Here.
Councilmember Raisler.
Here.
Councilmember Schneider.
Here.
Councilmember Schofield.
Here.
Officers are present.
Next up, the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's adopted. Next, we have any public comments? Are there any public comments, or did we receive anything?
Not received anything.
Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, no scheduled appearances, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following matters may be acted upon by the City Council utilizing a single vote. Individual items which any member wishes to address in greater detail or as a separate item on the regular agenda may be removed from the consent agenda upon request of any council member. We have the minutes from the regular City Council meeting from February 24th, 2021, and bartender's license for Cody J. Tulip and Deborah L. Flo for the cell block. Everything is fine.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion's agreed to. Next, we move on to a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is for a combination Class B liquor and fermented malt beverage license for Rolling Greens LLC, doing business as Rolling Greens Golf Course, owner Sarah and Tracy Stensberg, located at 1324 East 3rd Avenue West. So at this point here, I will declare the public hearing open. If anybody would like to speak for or against this liquor license, this is your opportunity. If you do want to speak, please identify yourself for the record.
Can I introduce yourself?
So since we don't have anything, we have Tracy and Sarah here. If somebody would like to speak on your behalf, just tell us a little bit about. I know that you took over, I think back in December, closed on it.
December 15th, yep.
And so go ahead and talk about yourself a little bit.
I'm originally from Montana. He's from Nisio, Wisconsin. We worked for Kurt and Shar, the previous owners, last season. We had a good time. We're hoping this year is going to be even better, and we have a lot of exciting new stuff, so we're hoping that you guys will approve our liquor license so we can go forward.
Any questions for them?
So plan on opening April 1st
Yes.
if the weather permitting?
That's the plan. We told a couple members already to start playing tomorrow.
Just as long as you walk.
No, yeah, walking on the staff agreed is all we ask. Do that.
Okay. Maybe you lose the greens, so that'd be a
Okay, anything else for the public hearing? If not, I hereby declare the public hearing closed. Next, we'll move on to the business agenda. Mayor's report. A couple things I'd like to talk about. Obviously, most people maybe heard that the stimulus bill passed this afternoon. There is some money in there for municipalities and cities. Already had a conversation with Administrator Rasmussen about keeping an eye out. Is there anything that might come our direction? But we'll definitely, if there is, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Again, we don't. I know the League of Municipalities put out a note saying that what the numbers were, totals were, but it started not specifying what would be possibly available. But obviously, we will. Also, the new truck is here. I'm assuming Superintendent Gillis will talk about that also after the meeting's over with. It is down in the garage, so if anybody would like to go take a look at it after the meeting, the council is welcome to come on down and take a look. had a conversation or had some contact with the big folks with Fun Fest, the Fun Fest group, and then also I made a contact with Blues on the Chippewa. Looks like both groups are making plans to go forward with some changes, a little bit different approach, and maybe on exactly how many events and how some things will be done. At this point here, we're not guaranteeing that both of those are going to happen, but again, as we said, both groups are making some plans, and then obviously telling them to also work with the health department and can have contact with them to see, obviously our numbers have been good. We've got one active case in the county right now. People are getting vaccinated. It looks like there's going to be a lot more opportunities for vaccinations coming up here in the next few weeks, and especially the next couple of months. So we'll see how that all plays out. The Tavern League's putt-putt thing, overall, I hear some good things. Things went well. No major issues as far as we know. I'm sure we'll have a quick update from the chief when we get to his report on that. Also, I made calls as we talked at the last meeting. Chief Ridgway talked about the importance of getting more mental health beds available for folks that they need to deal with, that we had a stretch. We had like 5 of them pretty quick, all in about a few weeks, and of course, having beds not available. I called Representative Petrick, talked to Senator Jeff Smith, and then also have a call into the governor's office. Was able to have a conversation with Senator Smith. With him, I talked more about the budget coming up, because that's where more he was talking, what the governor presently has in his budget, and obviously there's some good things about this, and they agree something needs to be done. Representative Petrick also talked a little bit about there's a bill that they're trying to get through to possibly get more beds available here. And again, also a good thing. So we're not having to drive people over to Green Bay and Madison and every place else. That if we can get them in Eau Claire and Chippewa, that would be obviously be helpful. But anyway, so obviously trying to, I was, the response was, yeah, obviously they know there's an issue here. We need to be able to try to have those available when we have those cases come up. But anyway, so obviously making those contacts. Just a reminder, if anybody else on the council, if you want the numbers, we can get you the numbers to call. To also talk about, again, the importance of opening up more available mental health beds here in western Wisconsin. Also, one other thing, I don't know if I've passed it around, we did get a thank you from the Olson family, of course, Kay Olson, who was on our library board with her passing, and we did get a thank you back for the arrangement that we sent to her services. That's all I got. Any questions? Hearing none. Nothing came off consent. Move on to the administrator's report. Administrator Rasmussen.
Just a few items as well to kind of piggyback on the mayor's note regarding the COVID relief bill. So basically, I think most of you have probably read that. So the state of Wisconsin is slated to get about 5.6 million total. The state looking at 3.2 billion, and then about 2.3 billion to other municipalities, including ourselves. The Wisconsin or the Milwaukee Journal had an article I saw that they were trying to I think what they did is they extrapolate a little bit of what the last payment was from that ended in November of last year. So they were even speculating that. I forget what municipality they had. Butternut up in Ashland County was even slated to get $35,000. I think it's a municipality I think they have 400 people up there. Fair to say, I think the city of Durand's going to get at least what we got allocated last time, $30,000, probably a little bit more than that. The only other thing that I've seen that's come across through the league and other places is recall last time it was very much extra expenditures that the municipalities were spending that they were reimbursing. This time I think they're looking at a little closer look of revenue losses. So, we had some, and I don't have those final details, but, so for example, PSC disallowed or basically forgave some late charges and things of that nature for a while, and then we did as well. We adjusted some of our bartending licenses and fees. Some of those, I don't know if they're gonna go back in the last year, but again, waiting to see as we move forward on this. So, but that's one piece that wasn't covered last time that seems likely to be covered this time. But whatever that is, staff will get together and rest assured that we're gonna get every penny that hopefully we can squeeze out of that and move forward to, just like we did the first round. Relatedly with COVID, City Hall's been open since the first of the month. Fair to say, and Angie and Matt can chime in, I think it's gone pretty well. The people, it's been very limited people coming in, to be honest with you. A couple, 3 a day, maybe, dropping off, utility bills and that nature. But everyone's been quick in and out. We still have the mask mandate, and I don't think we've had any issues with that. So again, it's gone very well. So we thank the folks at Durand for that. Vaccination-wise, that continues forward. Our library staff was included in with the school group, so they're all vaccinated, have their first vaccinations. And we have some public works staff that are coming up the next couple of days. So that moves forward, and I keep pressing the Heidi, I guess, the biggest one for me, and again, we're separated enough, but I'd like to get Angie in the mix with the election coming up again. We pushed that last time, and that didn't quite get in, but I'm optimistic that the rest of us will, again, we'll wait our turn and we'll go from there. But I think kudos to the health department staff for their communication and getting our folks in up to this point, and I'm sure that will continue. Just a quick note on a future meeting, we still have the Plan Commission is looking to meet. Jenny's going to be contacting them for either next week or certainly right before our next council meeting to get that annexation and CSM, certified survey map for the cemetery on deck, and that it should be a really quick meeting, but requirement of the state to take care of that, so that'll be on the docket for next time. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Any questions for the administrator? Hearing none, we'll move on. Discussion and possible action regarding the combination Class B liquor and fermented malt beverage license for Rolling Greens LLC, doing business as Rolling Greens Golf Course, owners Sarah and Tracy Stensberg. Would somebody like to make a motion concerning?
I'll make the motion, we approve the liquor license for Durand Golf Course.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion's agreed to. Congratulations. Next, we have discussion possible action regarding the renewal of Weber Inspections contract for 2021. Fred Weber's been doing our inspections for quite a few years. This is basically just renewing it. If you want to give the details on how he's paid here, it's based on, it's per event, or it's how that is, if you would like to explain.
The project,
And to do that, and this is just renewing, working with Fred, with no changes.
No changes. And just to clarify, there's no tax revenue that comes out of paying Fred. Basically, we get the permit fees, Fred deals with the individuals and then charges what he thinks is appropriate based on the size of the project and the scope of the project, and that's how Mr. Weber's funded. My dealings with him over the last few years have been great. Fred's really good about getting back to people and staying on top of things, so I think we're doing well with our contract with him, and so we recommend that we continue forward with it.
Any questions concerning this agreement?
Not that anything's wrong with Fred Weber, but is he like our only option?
I would guess not. From the standpoint, it's kind of an odd one, Terry, from the standpoint that, again, that it's not a dollar issue. We don't, and honestly, I haven't heard any issues.
Well, you guys, I got no issues with it either. Is anybody else propositioned for the position, or?
Yeah, I have not heard from anyone. This has never come up.
Bid it on there, and it'll be a different story.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody was showed some interest, we would
Oh, certainly.
talk with them.
I'll make a motion, we approve the contract with Weber Inspections for 2021. Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the contract with Weber Inspection. Since it is a contract, can I get a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilmember Gillis.
Yes.
Councilmember Hartung.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider.
Yes.
Councilmember Schofield.
Yes.
All six in favor.
Motion's agreed to. Next, we move on to the police department monthly report. Chief?
Just an update on the Fun Fun event. Everything went well. We got everything signed Friday night. And we didn't have any issues. I spoke to both the day shift officer and the night shift officer, and they reported no issues at all. I didn't see any trash. I was down there, drove through quick, but I didn't notice anything that was obvious. We didn't have any issues throughout the day. Our squad car is set to be delivered on March 23rd. It'll probably take a few weeks. When I talked to the sheriff's department, they had said, the dealer, they had said 2 weeks after shipping date. So maybe like mid-May, end of May, or April, I mean, maybe we'll get it by then. But so that's an update on the squad. When I went to the Chiefs Conference, I met with a vendor that's working with the Chiefs Association. It's called Virtual Academy. Virtual Academy is a program that you pay a registration fee for your however many roster spots you have. It's $45 per officer. They offer 160 different virtual training options, different classes you can take. They're all recognized by the state of Wisconsin. So I signed up for the Virtual Academy. I figured it's a good way for us to get our part-time staff that we don't really send to a lot of trainings, some pretty good trainings on de-escalation drills and different use of force tactics and mental health. And there's a lot of different options for them to get training. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to assign our staff one training session a month, and we'll pay them. It's a 1 or 2 hour class. It depends on the class. And then there's a little test they take after the class is done. So I'll assign an assignment every month on a training video, but I'm going to allow them to work ahead if they if they see something that interests them. I'll let them watch it. I'm not going to pay them if they watch them on their own, but I will pay them for that one class a month. It'll just be a way for us to get some extra training for our officers, our part-time staff that isn't in here doing a lot of training that we try not to send them to a lot of out-of-town type training. So it'll be a good way for them to get some training. Just an update on the mental health side of things that the mayor had talked about. We have a pretty regular meeting with Pepin County Human Services, Chief Deputy Raisler, myself, Chief Van Alstyne and Pepin. Also SRO Bonnerup sits in on those as well. And we talked at length about mental health cases. And one thing that I thought was pretty interesting, Matt pulled the numbers for both the Sheriff's Department and the City Police Department. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Matt said at the meeting, an average Chapter 51 takes our officers off the road for 10 hours on average. So we are working on it. We continue to work on it in Pepin County to try to do what we can on our end to speed things up. And so we had a good discussion last week on that as well. So, but any questions on anything? You guys have my report for the month?
Is that online academy, was that 45 a month or?
45 a year.
A year.
For as many as you want to do?
We have 9 spots reserved, so if we lose a part-timer, we don't have to pay for the new part-timer coming in. That's just a spot, and then we just plug them in. So pretty inexpensive expense for us to get them some good training. So.
The trash after the putt-putt downtown was good. What about traffic?
Traffic, there was a couple speeding tickets during the day. Wasn't related to putt-putt, it was Prospect Street area. But we didn't have any drunk drivers, no bar fights, no issues at all with the event. It was good.
Not like that report.
Any questions any other questions for Chief Ridgway? Okay, thanks. Next, we move on to the fire department. I see the chief isn't here, but for the fire department, everybody did get a monthly written report. Anything else to add to? Did you have,
Maybe I would ask the mayor if you want to discuss, you have Jamie's report already? You just want to talk about the EMS assisting piece and what we're kind of experimenting with a little bit?
I believe on the EMS assist, there's been one for sure that I am aware of, pulseless non-breather call, and we had discussed and it had been approved to send up to 4 firefighters to assist the ambulance when a call came into dispatch that was a known pulseless non-breather call. The other EMS assists, I'm guessing, are probably lift assists where the crew needed some assistance getting the patient lifted up. So,
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, that's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on, because.
Are we able to bill for that?
Kind of. So that's something we've been working with Matt, is from the standpoint of, what was problematic with that is, it's not a case where, okay, when we get the run sheets back, and they had to call in, and we had to have 5 people come out from the fire department. We're not allowed to tack that on, especially if it's a Medicare patient. And again, I'm talking exclusively for Medicare, which is the vast majority of our. And so that was some of the issue. And what was happening before was, it was, rural was involved, if it was outside, and then they were billing us $300, and so we had a discussion, and kudos to Mike and Jamie and, I'm sorry for his name, from rural, Don Hartung. To basically say, okay, look, that's just not making any sense for us, because we're losing money on these propositions. So we moved to this piece, and so it's cheaper for us. These firefighters are then getting paid the $20 a run versus $300. To answer your question, in some cases we get paid, but most we don't. But typically we have to have, so basically we need to set up another, or we're in the process of setting up, this is what we charge for a lift assist if there's no lift assist. And so it doesn't matter how many go, we just can't tack that on from a Medicare standpoint. So we have, you've heard me mention this before, and Mike and I have a lot of work to do yet this year on walking through how to cover some of these ambulance charges, and trying to make sure that, we figured out how to keep it, the operation run pretty much 365, 724, 365. Now we gotta figure out how to fund it. Make sure that we can, and again, from the Medicare side, we're just not getting the money that we should be.
I think also, just to expand upon that, regarding, say for example, a car accident run where you have both EMS and fire, I think we need to sit down and review the billing for that as far as what the insurance companies will pay, because I believe there may be a situation where the insurance companies will pay for, say for example, the ambulance bill, but then not the fire costs for setting up a landing zone or just assisting at a call. So I think if you bill it as a rescue call with one bill, that will get covered, so that's something.
Yeah, and that was another downside of the rural side. We wouldn't get that bill for another month, and then there's no way we were getting that money back, unless it was a private pay that, the goodness of their heart, but yeah, so that's certainly a piece. And just one other clarification piece here. So this is, clearly we have the striker lift system, that's helping a lot when you just have 2 people, but this is getting the person out of the home in a lower level, things of that nature, so.
And I think, Mike can probably speak better than I can, but just from my personal experience of seeing is, I think part of this is tied to COVID and some of the elderly people that don't have real good,
That's true too, yeah.
ability to get up and out of their homes, and now we're dealing with, we've had some doozies in the last couple of months as far as like nooks and crannies of homes that somebody's in, and how do you have, a couple of the newer EMTs are, tiny people, and you can't be expecting them to do it all either, so.
I can also say, we went to a fall recently, within the last month, and one of the deputies, Deputy Chrisick, showed up, and there was 4 of us on scene, 2 other EMTs besides myself and Deputy Chrisick, and it took all 4 of us to get that patient out of the home to the ambulance. And so I can certainly see where if we get a couple of our smaller EMTs, there's just no way they're going to be able to physically move a patient to the cot from the home. So unfortunately, we are probably going to be seeing more of those ambulance assist calls from the fire department, but I don't know how else we can get around it.
maybe we can get some COVID money if we can correlate.
Well,
if there's a
yeah, because
connection.
we have, I mean, we had provision where we weren't able to bill for a lot of the COVID.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's another revenue loss.
To use that for reimbursement.
Exactly,
yes.
yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else on the fire department side? Well, that'll take us straight into the ambulance monthly report. Mike?
I had a couple of things in addition to just the report here. A couple things I wanted to discuss with all of you was, we have something known as a MAVIS response, and that stands for Mutual Aid Box Alarm System. And it is a fire term that, in essence, layman's terms, is if there's a large incident, the dispatch center in all the counties statewide have a system where they will notify surrounding departments of the needs according to whatever that fire department calls. For example, just a single box alarm will get X number of fire trucks and ambulances and tenders and this and that. There was a structure fire in Elmwood last month, and part of their MAVIS box alarm for that large structure fire included an ambulance from Durand. And they requested our first out ambulance, and I was notified about that right away, and not knowing how long they were going to be needed or on standby, I had dispatch page out for a secondary crew to take the backup ambulance, which did happen, and that was good because they were there for an extended period of time. My question to you is that something that you would like to see me continue to do or our crew to do so that we have a 911 ambulance here when the ambulance is called for a MAVIS box alarm in a different county, a different location? This is completely out of our normal response area.
So we sent both of our rigs?
No, just one.
Just
Just the
one.
back.
So we did have one here.
Yes, yes.
I think we need to keep one here.
Keep, when we're talking about keeping the first ambulance with the two people that are on call.
For a MAVIS box alarm.
These other ones
yes.
are the transfer type, for lack of,
Well, it would be the backup
It's the backup.
ambulance, yes, or the ambulance that is used for transfers, yes. But that's not staffed 24/7 like our frontline
so I
ambulance is.
wouldn't think we'd send anyone if we couldn't send two people who respond.
And that's what I told them is if we cannot get a backup crew for that call, we were not going to be responding.
So frankly, it's not a whole lot different than our transport issues. Well, I mean, from the standpoint of, again, we're not leaving without having a backup that's right there, ready to go if there's an issue
Correct.
in our area, yeah.
However, the MAVIS box alarm that came in at the power plant in Alma was dispatched differently. That was dispatched as a medical emergency or medical need. So in an instance like that, we have no idea if there's 20 patients from an explosion or something very, very large where, yes, they are going to need as many ambulances as they can pool from the surrounding areas. So in that instance, they did respond with our frontline ambulance. And I did not have Pepin County page out another crew to staff the backup ambulance, which is kind of segues into our fire standbys for the Durand Fire Department's area. I'm just looking for some direction as far as those standbys could last hours, several hours, depending on how big the fire is or what the incident is. It might be a hazardous materials response from the fire department, or who knows, but.
But the other thing is that in that works two ways. If we needed them, we could call them out. If we had a major incident here,
The mutual aid area?
Yes.
Ambulance services, absolutely. And that would again be a MAVIS box alarm coming from Pepin County Dispatch.
from Pepin County Dispatch.
So we could get as many as probably half a dozen ambulances depending on how large the incident is.
Because, and in mutual aid situations, there's no billing from one department to another, correct, agency, correct?
Correct,
If you have a mutual aid agreement,
correct.
you just send.
Just one piece I guess I would add here. Mike and I have not had a chance to talk about this issue at all.
We have
So,
not.
you know, from the standpoint,
This just
I'd
sort
certainly
of
like
came up
to understand a little bit more of the whole thing before we have a general discussion.
Yeah, and that was something where I wanted to leave up to you to, I guess, hash over and decide if, what my proposal is I would like to, anytime there is a Mavis box alarm where an outside agency is requesting us, unless it's a instance such as the power plant where they say it's a medical emergency, but if it's just a matter of a standby for our ambulance at a Mavis box alarm, I would like to see if we can staff a backup ambulance and let them respond. Now, for fire standby in our area, we would have to send out our frontline ambulance, the 911 ambulance, in case they get on scene and there's 2-3 victims in the backyard that were pulled out of the home and need immediate medical attention. So in that instance, I would like to see from the time of dispatch, when things kind of settle down in the dispatch area, for them to tone out or dispatch a request for 2 EMTs to be paid to staff the backup ambulance until the ambulance that is at the fire standby returns to service, if that makes sense.
And the striker system's in the first off.
Both ambulances have the auto load cots, both of them do.
Now, you talked about an element being a medical situation,
Yes.
not a fire situation. So on the medical situation, are we sending our emergency?
Yes. We almost have to.
Without sure staffing on the backup.
Correct. It would be, in essence, no different than a 911 call coming in right now. Depending on the day or time of the day, we very likely could get 2 more people for the second ambulance, and sometimes not.
We could be in some real trouble where no one could respond because all the cities are down there.
Yeah, we would probably have to rely on the city of Eau Claire to send an ambulance.
Well, why don't you put together a plan on how these will be handling those situations? I think the general feeling of the council is we always want to be prepared to take care of our people. And what needs to be possible, if we're to send, if we have to send, but then whether we have to page some more people to try to make sure we're covered here. But then why don't you put together a plan on how to deal with this? And
So regarding the Mavis box alarms, those are actually pretty rare. The fact that we had 2 of them in a month's period of time is very rare. So I don't anticipate this to being a frequent event where we would need to staff a second ambulance or try to staff a second ambulance.
And then, but, yeah, and then so.
Good to have a plan, though.
Get together a
Yes.
policy, get together a policy though, so we
Okay.
can deal with it when they do come in.
So other than that, if you have any other questions on my report, I would entertain those. And then if not, we can move forward with the approval of the officers.
Everybody has the page with the listing of the officers. Would be First Assistant Director Jeff Dowdy, Second Assistant Director Angie Bignall, and Secretary Treasurer Cindy Dragney.
And just recall that the fire officer's always been approved as part of their bylaws. Ambulance wasn't, we added that, so that this is probably the first time that this has come before the council. Mike, I don't know if you just, a quick rundown of how long these people have served and even just maybe a quick update of what their responsibilities are.
Ooh, I should have brought my bylaw.
Oh, sorry.
With me, I apologize. They all 3 have responsibilities pertaining to duties at the office. Jeff has been with the service quite a while. Has also helped out with maintenance issues on both ambulances. He helps me immensely. He really does. So I am very happy to have him as the first assistant director. And Jeff's role would be to fill in at a meeting if I was unable to attend and carry out the duties of the director. Angie also is a great help. She was added as a training officer last year and recently has taken over ordering all of the supplies and is responsible for making sure none of the medications are expired, outdated, anything like that. Cindy Dragney has been the secretary treasurer for several years. She's been with the service, I believe, just about, if not longer than Jeff. And also just incredible asset. I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff I do without her. And she has transitioned my role when I took over as director considerably with her knowledge from the past. So all three of them are excellent, outstanding people in the positions that they are filling. So the only new one from last year would be Angie, who takes over for Lori Place, who decided not to run this year.
Okay, we see the slate. Are there any other questions concerning it? If not, would somebody like to make a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the Durand Municipal Ambulance Officers.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the officers for the Durand Ambulance Service. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion's agreed to, it is approved. Thank you, Director Miller. Next, we move on to Public Works and Utilities Engineers Report. You got anything from Cedar Corp?
Yes, the bids are out. I talked to Russ the other day. It sounds like 5 or 6 companies have pulled bids for the project as of Monday. So we should have some pretty competitive bids. Bid opening is again Monday, March 15th. The 3rd Avenue project opens at 2 p.m. The Laneville Dryer project opens at 3 p.m. For those of you that have never been to one, it's pretty simple. The bid's got to be signed, sealed, and delivered in here by 2, and then we open every packet up and read them aloud. And then at 3 o'clock we do the same thing for the excuse me, the Laneville and the Dryer portion. Then Cedar Corp will take those back, review them, make sure they didn't miss anything and their math is correct. And at the next council meeting on the 24th, excuse me, on the 24th of March, we will have the basically the bids in front of you for you to award the winning bid or the winning contract. And then after you do that, the next day I'll sit down and get a pre-construction meeting scheduled with them. So if the weather keeps holding out the way it is, we're going to be starting sooner rather than later. So I'm optimistic for that. So that's the plan as far as the engineer's report, and the cemetery stuff should be getting finalized here within the end of the month as well.
Any questions on the engineering side of things? Next, move on to monthly report.
Yes, as the mayor mentioned earlier, our new truck is here. It's an F550 chassis, diesel engine. It's got the front plow, the wing, the mid-mount wing plow on the side, stainless steel dump body, and a Striker ice insert system for snow removal in the winter. Should be a pretty good unit. Haven't had a chance to use it, the winter stuff yet, and I'll be frankly honest with you, I hope we don't. So we've been kind of playing around with it for the last couple days and going through it. I'm sure we'll have some training and stuff through next winter as well, if we don't get to use it too much yet this year. But should be overall a nice truck for us. Again, if anybody wants to go down and look at it, it is downstairs. So if you want to take it for a test drive, go ahead.
Whose truck is it gonna be?
It'll be Steve Gilbertson's truck. So it'll be the avenue route, basically from 6th Avenue or 5th Avenue East. Does all the avenues all the way up to basically 9th Avenue, 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue. So those roads will be the ones seeing it the most. And then we plan on maybe using it in some of our emergency routes during the day. So we're going to try and use as much as possible. The one thing about this truck too, that we're going to be using it more, it's going to be used a lot more in the summer months. Like catch basin runs, park type stuff where we only need a couple yards of dirt to get around the park versus hauling a big loader or dump truck around. So I envision the truck being used a lot more in the summer months, than the winter months, unless we get a winter like we had a couple years ago. The street sweeper is in the shop, getting serviced down below our shop here. Changing the oil, getting all the new brooms installed on it, getting it greased up, getting it ready. There's a 30% chance of snow for Monday, so Monday we'll kind of see what happens, and then we'll look at the long range forecast and see maybe by the end of next week we can, or the week after, we can get the sweeper out. One thing too to keep in mind with the street sweeper is even though there's not snow on the ground, it does have a water system on it. So if it's 20, 25 degrees outside, we can't take that sweeper out, or they're only 1/4 inch lines, we're gonna freeze those up. So even if it is, like it has been the last couple of weeks, and let's just say it's 20, 25 or 30 out, we still can't get that machine out. So it's gotta be above freezing to get it out on the streets. Since we switched over to salt, there's nowhere near the amount of sand out there that we've had in the past. The RBC unit, just talked to them, we're on schedule for the end of May, like we anticipated, so things are moving along with that. The water issue on Wells Street, moving along with Excel on getting that rectified. We had a couple meetings over the last week here. We're gonna put a culvert system in to drain that water under the road and get it out into the river. It's draining so much water that we don't feel a drain tile system will be sufficient for it. So working through that, they got to apply for a culvert permit and got to put it out for some bids. So it'll be a month or so yet before we see anything going on down there. The water freeze that's in the paper is still currently active. Yesterday the frost depth was still just shy of 5 feet. The top 2.5 feet have thawed, so we're just waiting for the bottom 2.5 feet to thaw out of our frost gauges. Anticipating after the rain today, the weather yesterday, moving forward, hopefully by next week we'll be lifting that freeze warning. Other than that, unless you have any questions for me, that consists of my report.
Any questions for Superintendent Gillis? Now, we'll move on to discussion of possible action regarding the land contract sales for the 3rd Avenue East, Dryer Street, and Langville project. As you know, there were 2 parcels that we were needing to buy to complete, and we have those agreements. Everybody should have a copy in front of you. Of course, the first one was with Ronald and Colin Weiss. The second one were with Dan and Jamie Harm. All of the details are included in that, and which both parties have agreed to. And this is to make it official on our end to approve those 2 vacant land contracts.
If I can just clarify that, so basically we have verbal agreements with both these. Matt did a nice job in talking through them, so we're good to go there. Working with Walt Riley to come up, again, being that this is a vacant contract sale, it's pretty simple. Didn't cost us a lot of money for them, so basically they basically just sent me a contract that they've used in the past. We filled in the numbers. I think the only thing that has changed since we last talked is on the Weiss contract. I think we just talked it was gonna be a swap between, basically, we get the land and we pave the driveway. Attorney Bailey reminded me that when you sell land in Wisconsin, there has to be a monetary payment, so we just, no, so that wasn't in there before. But otherwise, so basically, I think we'd like to, as long as it's good here, we'll get these signed, and Matt, you got some work potentially coming up with gas, so that's why we'd like to get these done basically by the end of next week.
Yeah, the gas company is actually looking to start this project around the 20th of March, so they kind of need to make sure that the right-of-way acquisition is in place before they start their project, so that they're firmly working in road right-of-way. So I'd like to not hinder them, get them in there by the 20th and get them a good couple, 2-3 weeks in there before we really need to be in there, so they can get a head start, kind of get out of our way, so.
The gas company, they're replacing a bunch of lines and stuff?
Yep, had a teleconference with the gas company and Russ and Kevin from Cedar Corp last week, and they're basically replacing all of the gas lines on the entire project, which is pretty standard for them. Every project we've ever done, they've come in and replaced every single gas line under the street, so it's pretty standard practice for them to do that.
Services to the house do that?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve the vacant land contracts with Weiss and Durand as presented.
Second.
We have a motion second to agree to the vacant land purchase. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gillis.
Yes.
Councilmember Hartung.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider.
Yes.
Councilmember Schofield.
Yes.
All 6 in favor.
Motion's agreed to. Next item is update on the vacant building ordinance changes. Of course, we've had a discussion about this toward the end of last year, and I believe that this was being brought back because we had said about, because if we do make changes to it, we do need to have a public hearing and so on. Scott, if you will go ahead and...
Yeah, so actually, we do not need to have a public hearing, but it does need to be published, and for just a standard public hearing. But the only piece that, as I went back through and looked at my notes, and I apologize for not taking better notes, Herb and I had a discussion as chair of the committee that discussed this. The only thing I just wanted to make sure before we put it in the paper is, talking about the fine structure. We knew we wanted to cap it at 5. I just wasn't sure, because right now it starts at, it's 500 and 1,000 the second year. I think the discussion was we wanted to have it 5,000 in year 5. So then, well, is it 500,000, 250, something like that, or do we just run it? It's 1,000 every year, and so year 6 is 5,000. I'm sorry, I just need a little guidance on that.
Fine structure or fee structure?
I said fee structure there, yeah. If I said fine structure, I didn't mean that. I meant fee structure, so clearly. Thank you for the
$1,000 a year, 1,000, 2,000.
Well, then, it's 6 years out. I thought we said 5, but again, that would be fine too. Okay, so then that's the way I'll write it up, and that's how it will be presented to the council in a couple weeks. So that's fine. The consensus is good there.
Any more questions on that, or and then this will come back at the next
At
meeting,
the next meeting, yeah.
as far as action is concerned?
Yeah. Basically, it needs to be published because it's a zoning code amendment.
Zoning code amendment, okay.
So for the people who paid 1,000 this year, will they pay 2,000 next year?
That's the way we look at it, yeah. Or, well, you know what, look out, I don't want to tie your hands here, because basically, if some of these folks are on now year 3,
Oh, yeah.
you could decide, so that's up to the council.
Well, I think,
We can have that discussion.
You have that discussion, that'd be your option.
yeah, we can have that discussion. Just saying that my concern is when you change something like this, I think it starts from the change to me. I don't think it goes in, if you're in year 3 already, you automatically jump to 3 on the new schedule. I think you have to start from, I just think that's a fair way of doing it.
And that can be discussed.
Anyway, that's my opinion. So but anyway, we'll bring that back, we'll have it all put together, and have officially weigh the change. Are there any more questions or concerns on that? Okay, next we'll move into closed session. The council will convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1985 1C and Wisconsin State Statute 1985 1F for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data, and further for considering financial, medical, or social, personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or investigation of changes against specific persons, which, if it applies, if discussed in public, it would likely have substantial adverse effect with that employee. If somebody would like to make a motion.
I'll make the motion, we go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Schofield.
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Hartung.
Yes.
Councilmember Gillis.
Yes.
All six in favor.